I'm John Skinner, proprietor of Painted Rock Estate Winery from Penticton, British Columbia.
John, the Canadian wine industry has had such a great evolution over the last, I think, decade in particular in terms of the quality of wines that are being produced. How do you see us evolving in terms of notoriety beyond our borders?
Oh, really good question. I'm exceptionally involved in international markets. We're Canadian, we're not chest pounding. You have to go to the international markets, you have to earn that. So I've had extensive experience in China, in Japan, and there was one moment when I was inquiring of a friend whether I should go to Hong Kong, and this gentleman's brother is one of the top wine reviewers in London, David Gleave. And David, his brother phoned me a few years ago and he said, John, if you want to get on the international stage, don't be going to all these countries, come to London and rebrand yourselves away from ice wine. Show them that it's an educational process. Painted Rock was just written up by Stephen Spurrier in Decanter magazine. You can't pay for that stuff. It's earned. It can't be a one-off. You can't go to London once. You can't go to Provine once. You have to do it and keep doing it and keep doing it so that they are now familiar with who we are. And it's not just Painted Rock. There are a number of other BC wineries. We've all found one another. Ontario wineries, Nova Scotia wineries, and we go with a Canadian flag and then allow the consumers to peel the onion. Peel the onion back and find out about Benjamin Bridge, find out about Norman Hardy in Ontario, find out about Painted Rock in BC, and that's something that is being quite heartily endorsed by a lot of the top reviewers.
So one of the things I've always said about the Canadian wine industry is that Canada is the most major wine producing country in the world that very few people know anything about.
That's a really good point.
But also, if somebody who considers themselves knowledgeable about the global wine industry, unless they know about Canada, their knowledge is incomplete. So are you finding that as you are doing these shows internationally, that number one, people are recognizing that we are more than just about ice wine, but also are they making the distinction between the diversity that exists?
Bang on, because what we've had to do and what we've recognized is specification. So I've now coalesced with a group of 6 other Okanagan wineries, and we're taking that word Okanagan and we're putting it on the international stage. It has to have its own currency, but it has to be understood. So you have to reach out, you have to engage the reviewers so that they'll give you print time and get in front of the winophiles, because I know a lot of really serious wine guys who had never heard about the Okanagan Valley. I did a webinar with a Master of Wine, Jennifer Simonetti-Bryan, and it was a few years ago, and she had her 20 MW students. She teaches Master of Wine. She had her 20 MW students on a webinar, and first question was, how many of you have heard of the Okanagan Valley? And 4 of them had. These are MW students. 4 of 20 in the United States. So I don't fault them for that, I fault me for that. I haven't got in front of them yet, and I'm gonna get in front of them, and I'm gonna bring my peers.
So what do you see the next important step that the Canadian industry needs to take in order to continue on this program, this evolution?
Well, I honestly, I love it. We have to win the US. The US is a very difficult market, and we have really good traction in the UK now, all over Europe. Painted Rock has just been taken on by one of the largest importers of New World wines into Europe, and we're the first Canadian winery. The Wine Treasury rep us in London, we're their first Canadian winery, so we're getting there. The US is very difficult because each state is different. It isn't about selling all our wine there, it's getting it there so that it can build the regional profile, so that ultimately it's good for our entire industry if people go on to a list in New York City and say, hey, you've got an Okanagan section.
Absolutely.
That's what we're trying to do.
Well, people can't buy it unless they know it.
That's exactly it.
Absolutely.
And so, it's all well and fine to have a shelf talker, but having that kind of familiarity, it's earned.